How much of a luxury home can you hide underground before people stop calling it a barndominium? That's the question behind today's build. From the road, all you see is a dark structure pressed quietly into the hillside. No massive windows, no dramatic entrance, no hint that anything extraordinary is hiding here. But then a door opens, and suddenly you're standing inside a living room carved into the earth itself. A wall of glass reveals a glowing indoor pool. A fireplace rises from a single slab of stone. Natural light pours down from openings in the roof above. And somehow, despite being partially underground, this home feels brighter than most houses built completely above ground. The strangest part? The rooms people remember most aren't upstairs. They're the ones buried beneath the landscape. So how do you actually build something like this? How much does it cost? And why are more luxury homeowners beginning to explore this idea? Stay with me, because we're going to walk through the entire project, from the foundation beneath the hill to the final interior details that make it feel like a private resort. Before we step inside,
welcome to Barndo Dreams.
Welcome back to Barndo Dreams. If you love luxury barndominiums, unique floor plans, hidden spaces, incredible interiors, and real-world building concepts, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a like on the video. Every week, we explore homes that challenge what people think a barndominium can be. And today's build might be one of the most surprising we've ever featured. Now let's start where every underground home begins, with the hill itself. At first glance, it doesn't look expensive. In fact, that's exactly why it works. Most luxury homes try to impress you immediately. This one hides almost everything. The street-facing side shows only a low-profile structure wrapped in blackened timber, charcoal steel, and natural stone. The real reveal happens on the opposite side. As the land falls away, the home begins to unfold. Terraces appear, glass walls emerge, outdoor living spaces step down toward a private pool courtyard. And suddenly what looked like a modest building from the road transforms into nearly 4,800 square feet of luxury living. But here's the important part. This isn't a real listing. It's the Earthline Barndo, a fictional design study inspired by current North American construction methods, luxury home trends, and modern hillside building techniques. Think of it as a blueprint for possibilities rather than a blueprint for permits. The design combines warm industrial architecture with organic modern interiors. Charcoal steel, blackened timber, limestone, large walls of glass, and a planted roof that allows part of the structure to visually disappear into the landscape. The engineering behind that decision is where things get interesting. Because once you start building into a hillside, you're no longer just building a house. You're managing soil pressure, water movement, drainage systems, retaining walls, waterproofing membranes, structural loads, and long-term durability. In other words, the underground portion isn't the easy part. It's the entire reason the project works. And before we look at the living room, the kitchen, the pool, and the hidden spaces that make this home special, we need to start below everything. Because the most important part of this house is the part you'll never see. Before the first steel beam rises, before the windows arrive, before anyone chooses the kitchen cabinets, there's something underneath this house that determines whether the entire dream works. The ground. And that's where this project really begins. Before construction starts, engineers need to understand what the hillside is actually capable of supporting. Soil-bearing capacity, groundwater, frost depth, drainage, and slope stability all become part of the design. Because you're not simply placing a house on flat ground. You're asking part of that house to become part of the hillside. For this concept, the main structure sits on an engineered reinforced concrete foundation, while the lower-level spaces use cast concrete retaining walls designed to resist the pressure of the surrounding earth. And then comes something you'll never notice once the house is finished. A drainage system, perimeter drains, waterproofing, protection layers, free-draining backfill, and a strategy for collecting and removing water if it ever reaches where it shouldn't. It isn't glamorous. You won't see it in the final house tour. But those hidden layers are what protect the stone walls, hardwood finishes, flooring, cabinetry, and every other beautiful detail we're about to discover. Then the steel structure begins to rise. This isn't simply a giant metal shell dropped onto a foundation. The frame is engineered around the specific loads the building will experience, with columns, rafters, purlins, girts, connections, and bracing all working together. And because the interior partitions don't necessarily have to carry the structural load where the engineer permits it, the designers can create something much more dramatic inside. An 18-foot great room, without filling the middle of it with unnecessary columns. But there's another part of the structure most people never think about: the roof. From outside, you might see standing seam metal and assume that's the entire system. It isn't. Behind that finished metal are layers responsible for insulation, moisture control, air sealing, thermal performance, and long-term durability. In every place where something interrupts that roof, a skylight, vent, solar equipment, or other penetration, becomes another detail that has to be properly designed and sealed. Because when you're building a luxury home into a hillside, water is the enemy you never want to see. Then the hidden systems begin moving through the house. Plumbing routes toward the kitchen, bathrooms, and laundry. Electrical circuits are planned for everything from induction cooking and refrigeration to HVAC equipment, entertainment systems, workshop tools, and future charging needs. Low-voltage conduits are installed at the same time, allowing technology to disappear behind the walls instead of becoming an afterthought later. And slowly, the construction site starts becoming something else. Insulation goes in. Air sealing is completed. Fire blocking and drywall follow. Inspections happen. The systems disappear. And the steel structure that once looked like an unfinished shell begins to feel like an actual home. But now comes the part we've really been waiting for. Because all of that engineering was necessary for one reason: to create the spaces you're about to walk into. So let's finally open the front door. Why would anyone make the entrance to a luxury home feel smaller on purpose? Because the answer becomes obvious the moment you take the next step. The front door is solid oak, almost completely understated, with a narrow bronze detail running vertically along one edge. You open it, and you're immediately inside a darker, quieter vestibule. Dark plaster, honed limestone, a floating console hiding keys, charging cables, and everyday clutter. A narrow strip of light washes gently across the wall. Nothing here screams luxury, and that's exactly the point. The designers deliberately compress this first space. Then, you take one more step, and the ceiling suddenly explodes upward. 18 feet above you, the great room appears almost twice as large because of what you just experienced at the entrance. Warm gray polished concrete stretches across the floor. White oak beams cross overhead, and at the center of your view, a massive stone hearth climbs toward the clear-story windows above. This is where the steel structure finally stops feeling like a steel structure. The palette is deliberately restrained. Warm putty, sand, walnut, charcoal, and muted olive. Instead of filling the room with decoration, the design lets the materials do the talking. The curved sofa creates one intimate conversation area. A large wool rug quietly defines the space. Travertine sits beneath the coffee table. Full-grain leather chairs face the view, and burnished bronze details catch the light without overpowering the room. But there's something clever happening here. A room this large could easily become beautiful and completely uncomfortable. So instead of pushing furniture against the walls, the designers bring everything inward. The sofa creates a destination. The rug creates another layer. The chairs frame the view. And suddenly this 18-foot room doesn't feel like an empty warehouse. It feels like somewhere you'd actually want to sit. Then the lighting changes. During the day, natural light pours through the high glass. As evening arrives, motorized shades control glare, while recessed lights, wall washers, and concealed cove lighting gradually change the mood. Bright enough to work, warm enough to entertain, or almost completely dim for a cinematic night. And then you notice something else. Near the glass wall are indoor trees. At first, they look like decoration. But look closer. Their planters are designed around irrigation and drainage, while a pebble transition separates the planting areas from the polished concrete. The greenery isn't simply there to make the room look pretty. It softens the enormous volume. The wood adds warmth. The stone adds weight. The plants add life. And the glass keeps the entire room connected to the landscape outside. Then, just when you think you've seen the main reveal, something moves at the far end of the room. A pocket door slides backward and disappears completely into the wall. Behind it is a small reading retreat. No giant television, no oversized furniture, just a quiet chair, soft lighting, built-in shelving, and a view carefully positioned toward the landscape. And suddenly you realize something about this house. The biggest rooms aren't necessarily the most interesting ones, because somewhere behind that wall, the designers have hidden another space entirely. And we're going to come back to it. But first, we need to see what happens when this home's luxury moves from the great room into the kitchen. The next reveal begins with something that looks almost too simple to be important: a staircase. But the closer you get, the more you realize this isn't just a way to move between floors. White oak treads appear to float against a textured plaster wall, with slim steel stringers quietly echoing the structure of the home. Beneath every step, a warm strip of LED lighting creates a soft glow that turns the staircase into something beautiful even after the rest of the house goes dark. And the glass railing does something clever. It keeps the entire view open. Nothing interrupts the sight line toward the great room or the landscape beyond, while the walnut handrail brings just enough warmth to make the staircase feel inviting rather than architectural. But follow those stairs to the bottom, and the mood begins to change. The dining area opens up beside the kitchen, and suddenly the home feels more social. An oval walnut table stretches across the room, comfortably seating 10, while curved boucle chairs soften the surrounding hard surfaces. Above it, a single hand-blown glass pendant hangs low enough to create a more intimate atmosphere. And there's a subtle detail here that's easy to miss. The colors have changed. The great room was built around putty, charcoal, and muted olive. Here, warmer clay and rust tones quietly take over. It's still the same open space. It just feels like a different experience. And hidden along the wall is an appliance station containing warming drawers, a beverage refrigerator, and dedicated linen storage. Nothing is sitting out. Nothing is competing for attention, because that's becoming one of the biggest secrets of luxury interiors. The more effortless a room looks, the more carefully everything behind it has usually been planned. And nowhere is that more obvious than in the next room, the kitchen. From the dining room, the kitchen looks almost too clean, almost too simple. Then you see the island. It stretches nearly 15 feet across the room, finished with a book-matched porcelain surface that gives it the appearance of a massive piece of natural stone. The waterfall edge continues toward the living room, making the island feel less like a workstation and more like the centerpiece of the entire interior. 3 leather stools sit along one side. That's where guests gather. But on the other side is where the real kitchen happens. Walnut cabinetry runs almost seamlessly across the wall, while fluted oak gives the island another layer of texture. Behind those surfaces are serious appliances: induction cooking, steam-capable wall ovens, integrated refrigeration, a quiet dishwasher, and beverage storage. Yet somehow, none of it dominates the room. That's because the appliances aren't being displayed. They're being hidden. Even the ventilation disappears into a custom plaster volume above the cooking zone, keeping the ceiling visually clean. But then comes the feature that changes the entire kitchen. Look at the back wall. One section opens, and suddenly, what appeared to be another wall of cabinetry becomes a doorway. Behind it is an entire second workspace, a hidden pantry. There's a prep sink, a second refrigerator, tall storage, a durable work surface, and enough room for the appliances that would normally take over the main kitchen. The groceries disappear here. The toaster disappears here. The countertop appliances stay here. And when everything is closed, the main kitchen returns to that almost impossibly clean appearance. But there's another little reveal waiting beside it. Behind ribbed glass is a dedicated coffee bar, an espresso machine, a grinder, filtered water, a drawer specifically designed for mugs. It's not the largest room in the house. It isn't the most expensive feature either. But imagine waking up early, walking into this space before anyone else is awake, opening one small door, and having everything you need for your morning already waiting. That's what makes this kind of luxury different. It's not necessarily about impressing guests. Sometimes it's about making your own ordinary moments feel extraordinary. And if you put a hidden pantry and coffee bar in your dream home, drop a fire in the comments. Because the next space takes that same idea of personal luxury and pushes it much further. The private wing. After the openness of the great room, the transition into the private wing feels almost immediate. The sound disappears. The ceiling feels lower. The materials become softer. And suddenly, this doesn't feel like the same part of the house. The bedroom is built around pale oak flooring, lime-washed walls, woven linen, and a deep olive headboard wall. At the center is a curved upholstered bed positioned so that you can see both the fireplace and the private garden beyond. But look closer at the lighting. There isn't one bright fixture trying to illuminate everything. Instead, the room is layered. Soft pendants beside the bed, indirect ceiling lighting, blackout shades, and a separate reading circuit that can be controlled from either side of the bed. Everything is designed around how the room is actually used. Then comes the bathroom, and this might be where the definition of Barndominium starts disappearing completely. Large format stone look surfaces reduce visual interruptions around the shower. A floating walnut vanity carries twin basins. Warm bronze fixtures contrast against the cooler stone, and directly beneath a skylight sits a freestanding soaking tub. The effect is closer to a private hotel spa than a typical rural bathroom. Even the floor is heated. A towel warmer waits nearby. Ventilation operates quietly in the background, and every product has a place inside recessed storage rather than sitting across the countertop. But the most interesting part isn't the tub. It's the closet. Instead of treating the closet like leftover space, the designers turned it into something resembling a private boutique. Walnut shelving, felt-lined drawers, full-height mirrors, a central island, dedicated shoe storage, and lighting that gently activates when you enter. Then there's one final door. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't look dramatic. Behind it is simply a secure storage room for luggage, documents, and seasonal belongings. And that's another lesson hidden inside this home. Luxury isn't always about adding another room. Sometimes it's about giving every object a place to disappear. But we've reached the part of the house that started this entire story. The room you saw in the opening. The underground pool. Remember that room from the beginning? The one that looked like it shouldn't exist underneath this home? We're finally going there. The staircase continues downward, and with every step, the atmosphere changes. The polished concrete gives way to honed, slip-resistant stone. The lighting becomes softer, and then something unexpected happens. The ceiling begins to open. A deep light well reaches upward, pulling actual daylight into a space that is surrounded by earth. Because that's the problem with underground luxury spaces. You can make them enormous. You can fill them with expensive materials. You can install every amenity imaginable. But if they feel dark and disconnected from the outside world, they'll still feel like a basement. This room solves that problem with light. And then you see the pool. A full glass wall separates the water from the main lounge, allowing the pool to glow from within after sunset. The stone fireplace continues the material language established upstairs, while a long built-in bench follows the wall and gives the entire room the feeling of a private resort lounge. But there's something behind the scenes that makes this room possible. A dedicated mechanical area handles the pool's filtration, humidity control, and heat recovery systems. Because an indoor pool isn't simply a beautiful body of water inside a room. Without proper moisture management, condensation can damage finishes, create odors, and turn a luxury space into a maintenance nightmare. Here, all of that equipment is pushed out of sight. So when you're standing in the room, you don't think about the machinery. You just see the water, the stone, the daylight, the reflection. And that's exactly what great interior design is supposed to do. It makes all the complicated things disappear. What you're left with is the experience. And suddenly, that dark exterior we saw at the beginning makes sense. From the outside, it looks quiet, almost ordinary. But underneath, it is a completely different world. A kitchen that hides an entire second kitchen. A bedroom designed like a private retreat. A bathroom that feels like a spa. And finally, an underground pool room that turns the lowest level of the house into its most unforgettable space. The real luxury wasn't hiding underground. It was hiding in the details. By now, the house probably feels almost effortless. The floating staircase, the hidden pantry, the skylight over the bathtub, and that underground pool glowing beneath the hillside. But here's the part you don't see in the finished tour. None of those spaces happened by accident. Long before the walnut cabinets arrived, someone had to answer a much less glamorous question. Can the ground actually support a house like this? That means understanding the soil, groundwater, drainage, slope, foundation requirements, structural loads, and local building conditions before the design ever becomes reality. Then comes everything hidden behind the walls. The engineered steel frame, waterproofing, insulation, electrical circuits, plumbing, ventilation, HVAC, lighting, and the systems needed to make a below-grade pool comfortable instead of permanently damp. And that's what makes this house so interesting. The luxury you can see is only half the story. The other half is hidden inside the walls, beneath the floors, and underneath the ground itself. Because that stunning underground pool isn't simply a room someone decided to dig into the hillside. It depends on everything that came before it. Take away the engineering, the drainage, and the waterproofing, and you don't have a luxury retreat. You have an expensive problem. But get those fundamentals right, and suddenly the underground spaces become some of the most memorable rooms in the entire home. And that's the real lesson from the Earthline Barndo. The most impressive luxury isn't always what you add to a house. Sometimes it's what you successfully hide. Remember the first shot? A dark structure sitting quietly against the hillside. Nothing about it suggested what was underneath. But now you've seen it. A great room wrapped in warm oak and stone. A kitchen where an entire working pantry disappears behind a wall. A primary suite designed like a private retreat. And finally, the room that seemed almost impossible when we first mentioned it. The underground pool. That's what makes this concept so compelling. It doesn't try to make the Barndominium look like something it isn't. Instead, it takes the freedom of the structure and pushes the interior experience somewhere completely unexpected. And maybe that's the bigger idea behind Barndo Dreams. You don't always need a massive facade to create a luxury home. Sometimes the most unforgettable spaces are the ones nobody can see from the road. So now I want to know, would you actually build an underground pool like this? Or would you spend that part of the budget somewhere else? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this tour, hit like, subscribe to Barndo Dreams, and turn on notifications, because the next home is about to take this idea in a completely different direction. We're going from a home that hides underground to one where the biggest surprise is waiting inside the walls. I'll see you in the next Barndo Dreams.